So you're saying she was murdered elsewhere, and at that time she was bled, let's just give it a gross term, bled dry.
And the fact that the spinal cord was severed perfectly, well, first thing I wrote down was butcher.
That was very interesting. And you gave me the old STP thrill with your knowing right up front there was a D involved, and then saying it had to do with a flower. That was astounding, because to come across the Black Dahlia and not have any idea that we're talking about this case and Elizabeth Short, to come up with those two terms was pretty remarkable.
I have to say that it surprised me, because when you said Beth, I thought, no, that doesn't sound right.
I know. You kept saying it's the D, and I was holding back thinking, I'm not going to give you anything there. I'm not going to reveal anything. And I thought, that's okay. It's just one letter of the alphabet. You could have come up with that. But when you said the flower, I was beaten. That was it.
Yeah, the flower was the big thing.
The flower was the big thing. Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist. Not only do we tell compelling tales of famous unsolved murders, missing persons cases, and supernatural events, we enhance our understanding to the uncanny insights of Darcy, a talented, professional British Columbian psychic medium. And now, RadioSidney presents Seeing Dead People, episode 36, Avenging the Black Dahlia. Hello, Darcy. How are you this glorious afternoon?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. I know your schedule is tight today, so we'll get right straight to it. Today, Darcy, we're going to investigate one of the most famous unsolved murder mysteries of the 20th century, and it happened in Los Angeles. Unbelievable lurid public interest and sensational press coverage, with the Los Angeles Record newspaper carrying related information about this murder on its front page for 31 consecutive days. So before I go any further, I'll ask you if you have any inklings.
Okay.
Take your time.
At this point, I'm going to say the usual for mayhem.
Okay, no thoughts of who it might be.
No, not today.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get ourselves into the right timeline and geographic location. It's January 1947, and we're in Los Angeles, California. Around that time, Bing Crosby was topping the charts in the music side. Deviled ham and gold nugget cake were in vogue in the kitchen. Movies cost 25 cents. And the two-piece bikini was just introduced to the world in, no surprise, a swimming pool in gay Paris. So the glitz and glamour of LA was riding really high in the late 40s. But of course, we on Seeing Dead People generally focus on the dark and gritty. And today we are deeply into that situation. Any thoughts at all at this point?
Well, no, because Marilyn Monroe, is that in the 60s too?
Yeah.
We've already done her, so I'm going to rule her out, but obviously a woman.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good guess. I'm going to ask you to look at our first photograph. It's a mugshot photo, and I'm going to ask you to describe the person and if you feel or hear anything psychically. So tell us about photo number one, if you would, Darcy.
Okay, it's a young lady, dark hair, light colored eyes by the looks of it. Very pretty.
Very pretty.
And very intense eyes for a female. Looks like she's wearing a shirt that either ties or has like a bow in front of it. And earrings. Looks like she's dressed up to go out. She, to me, very intelligent, very kind. Maybe, I'm going to say a little lost. I don't know why.
A little lost.
Yeah, a little lost. And she's got like dark curly hair, but let's say.
Yes, does she? She is quite stunning, isn't she?
Yes.
Okay, you're getting the first chance to say hello to Elizabeth Short, Darcy, nicknamed Beth. The photo was taken in 1943, about 5 years before our case begins. Elizabeth was born in Boston, along with 4 sisters. Now I'm going to give you a look at her profile picture, Darcy. It's our photo number 2, also taken in 1943. I'm not sure if that helps you glean anything more about this young woman.
I keep hearing the D, even though you called her Elizabeth or Beth, and her last name starts with an S, but I keep hearing D.
Can you give me a word that with that the first letter so I know what letter you're talking about?
Like in my name, Darcy.
A D as in Darcy. Oh, okay. All right.
Which she wasn't, you said this was a mugshot.
Correct.
This wasn't due to the prostitution mugshot, was it?
No, it wasn't. In fact, it's a mugshot for two reasons, Darcy. She had a mugshot. Number one, she applied for a job at an army base and therefore had to go through some security clearances, I believe. And then the second one was she was arrested for drinking under the age. She worked as a waitress. She had designs on making it big in Hollywood, and based on her looks, I can understand why.
Yeah.
She was really striking. Do you have any idea what might have happened to her in 1947 January?
I'm gonna say that she was killed, possibly outside because of the weather. I'm trying to decide if she was strangled or stabbed or both. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the fact that neck thing brought my attention to her neck.
Okay, the shirt she was wearing, the design of it.
The shirt that would what looked like a bow tie, and that's why I'm thinking strangled or stabbed. I don't guess she could have been shot, but it doesn't feel like that.
Okay, well, Elizabeth was last seen January 9th, 1947 in downtown Los Angeles when she was being dropped off by her boyfriend, at the time, a 25-year-old married salesman named Robert Red Manley. She went to the Biltmore Hotel to visit a sister of hers, where staff saw her use the lobby telephone. A little while later, she was seen by patrons of a cocktail lounge about half a mile away. After that, Elizabeth Short disappeared for 6 days. Then, on the morning of January 15th, a mom and her 3-year-old were out for a stroll, and they walked right into a horror scene on a suburban street in Los Angeles. The pair nearly stumbled upon Elizabeth Short's body, posed on the grass just off the sidewalk on a vacant lot on South Norton Avenue, Leimert Park area of Southwest Los Angeles. That's about 25-minute drive from the Biltmore in downtown.
Yeah.
So to have a sense of where we are on the map, let's have a look at photo number 3, Darcy. And that's a map just depicting the downtown Los Angeles. And using, if you could follow the arrow that I have going to the bottom left, you'll see the location about 25-minute drive away where her body was found.
Okay.
So do you get a sense of what happened to her given this screenshot? Sometimes you pick up the oddest things from a screenshot of a map.
First of all, strangely enough, I thought she was dropped, or maybe she ended up closer to the university before she died.
She might well have, because she disappeared for 6 days.
Okay, so this is actually, it's like a flower.
What's like a flower?
Okay, the D. I wrote D and then I wrote Lily, but you called her Elizabeth. So it's like a flower.
So you're something is like a flower, and that you mean the letter D is like a flower.
Yeah, whatever is connected to her is like a flower. And
okay. How do you get that?
I don't know. It's just something is like a flower, because all I want to do is sneeze, and normally that's hay fever.
Okay.
And I'm going to anyways. And
go ahead, please.
mind you, she was in grass, which could do this to me as well, but I keep hearing like a flower.
Okay, that's really fascinating, Darcy, and it's starting to get the old ripple up my spine, because it's an amazing insight there. But before I tell you how she was killed or how we get to the D, I'd like to look at the next photo taken of Elizabeth, or Beth. It was taken roughly the year she was killed, in 1947. It's a candid shot, so it's a much nicer photograph than the mug shot. And I think it gives us a much more insight into her personality. I'm hoping it's going to sing to you a bit more so you can communicate with us more closely with Elizabeth. What does she tell you in this photograph, Darcy?
First of all, she's full of life. She's got the kiss curl that my grandma used to refer to. And she's very dynamic, they gave her a different name because of the murder, because of what transpired. But strangely enough, even if they may pegged her as being the only one, I don't think she is.
Wow, that's something we can talk about as we get near the end, because that's a very interesting point. Let's continue, unless you have anything else other than to tell us what Elizabeth might be telling you now.
I also feel she knew the person.
Ah, okay. And you're getting that sense how?
Just by the way, I guess the intensity of her vibration. I don't think, okay, mind you, she would have gone for casting calls then, but I don't really think she would allow someone so close to her unless she knew them.
Okay. And when you say vibrations, are you literally getting like an inside sense of Elizabeth Short?
Yes.
So you're literally in tune, if I can use that, with her.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because of the name Elizabeth, because I have a connection in a way to that name from being married into a family with it, or whether it's just her energy. But to be a movie star would have been top of her list. Okay. Broadway would have done her wonders, but she put her faith in someone who didn't have her best interests at heart.
Okay.
I actually now think that I might know who she is.
Okay. Spill the beans then.
This is the Dahlia, the flower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
This is the woman whose murder later she was given the nickname of the Black Dahlia or Dahlia. And you're right, it's a flower, a spectacular flower. So for you to early on get the letter D given to you, and then to have a sense of a flower when we hadn't really gotten far enough for you to even know the case details, I think is really remarkable. So there goes the tingling up the old spine. Well done on that.
Here's the other thing. Her dark hair kept screaming at me.
Ah.
Like the black hair, but I couldn't figure out, okay, she's got black hair, maybe she dyes it. But I think you said Black Dahlia, so I never connected the black to the flower. I just saw a flower.
But it's interesting, I'll go on a little bit and I can explain the name as I go on. So we have a staged murder site that the poor woman and her 3-year-old daughter stumbled upon in the middle of the morning on January 7th. The poor mom thought she had found a broken store mannequin because the ivory colored figure, and we're talking white figure on the grass, was, Darcy, cut in half.
Oh my God.
We're talking Jack the Ripper style here, with the upper torso, arms, and head separated more than a foot from the lower torso and her legs. This was the horribly mutilated body of Elizabeth Short. She was nude. All the blood was drained from her body, hence the idea that she looked unreal and like a mannequin. And yes, her body was severed in two in a very expert way, which we'll discuss in a bit. At the time she was found, they figured she was dead about 10 hours, so sometime late the night before or early that morning. Given the horrendous treatment of this woman's body, of course, her murder became a national and international sensation. And it didn't take long for a catchy nickname to grab the public's attention when some quick wit came up with the Black Dahlia, a riff off the title of a recent popular movie at the time called The Blue Dahlia, and Elizabeth's own penchant for wearing black and her, as you say, spectacular black hair. So from that day onwards, she was known as the Black Dahlia.
Wow.
She was characterized by the press as adventuresome and a haunter of Hollywood Boulevard, hinting a bit about her being perhaps a streetwalker, but she was not a prostitute.
Okay.
Tell me what you're gleaming now from this.
Okay, so streetwalker and prostitute at that time, a frame would have been the same thing. So maybe that's why I picked it up right away, is because the distinct, like the idea that she was dubbed as such.
Yep.
Okay. First and foremost, given the crime scene, I don't see a lot of blood. And the fact they severed her would mean that she had to have been done, this had to have been done there, because there's no way they could have packed that body with all the organs hanging out and no one seeing it. So my first instinct would be that they severed her, killed her somewhere else and severed her there.
Oh my God, I never thought of that. So you're saying the key though here, Darcy, is that she had no blood. So they had to have drained the blood from her body, which presumably would have been done when you sever somebody in half across the spine. That would bleed somebody out. So if they severed her there, they would have had a horrendously bloody crime scene.
Yeah, but they didn't have to sever her to have her blood all spill out. All they had to do was puncture the right organ. And
Okay.
then when they took her there, severed her.
All right. So you're saying she was murdered elsewhere. And at that time, she was bled. Let's just give it a gross term, bled dry.
And the fact that the spinal cord was severed perfectly, first thing I wrote down was butcher.
Exactly. A doctor, somebody with some kind of medical knowledge, absolutely was an initial idea. That's for sure.
No, I'm talking butcher.
You mean someone who butchers animals, not human beings?
Yes.
Okay, we'll follow that up because it's interesting. This procedure, they call it, and we'll get to it, about cutting a person in this manner is quite specific. Let's just go to the next photograph because I want you to look at the poster. It's a police bulletin. So this would have been given to the local police, not to you and me, okay? And it gives a little bit more information about her last day and a bit about her. If you could read for us, it's got the photograph that we just saw, that really vivacious photograph of her. If you could just read to us the two paragraphs I've outlined in red.
Okay. Says description: female American, 22, 5'6", 118 pounds, black hair, green eyes, very attractive. Bad lower teeth, fingernails chewed to quick. This subject found brutally murdered, body severed and mutilated January 15th, 1947 at 39th and Norton. Subject on whom information wanted last seen January 9th, 1947, when she got out of a car at Biltmore Hotel. At the time, she was wearing black suit, no collar on coat, probably cardigan sweater, white fluffy blouse, black suede high heel shoes, nylon stockings, white gloves, full length beige coat, carried black plastic handbag, 2 handles, 12 by 8 inches, or I guess 12 by 8, in which she had black address book. Subject readily makes friends with both sexes and frequent cocktail bars and night spots. On leaving car, she went into the lobby of the Biltmore and was last seen there.
Now, some reports say that she went to another cocktail lounge a little bit down the street, but whatever. That was her last day on Earth, sadly, that she was known to be alive. Do you understand or glean anything from that little bit of information?
If she was meeting her sister, I don't think it happened.
Why do you think that?
Because I don't see another lady in front of her. I see a man.
Oh, why would you expect to see anybody in front of her anyway?
Because if she was going to meet her sister, you would think her sister would be facing her to say hello. I don't see a woman. I see a man, nice face. Okay. Probably lighter hair than she does. Probably parted like mine to the left side, pulled over, and a either dark suit jacket, dark something. What year was that?
47.
So it could be not a suit jacket, but maybe an army jacket or something.
Okay, so you're seeing her greeting that person.
Yeah, I see the smile on his face. So either he's getting ready to say hello or she's saying hello to him.
Okay, cool. All right. As grisly as it is, let's break down the horrific and savage post-mortem injuries and humiliations that were discovered on Beth's body. There are graphic images available on the web. However, they're copyrighted, and I don't think we need to see them. I'm just going to describe them, okay? The autopsy was performed on January 16th, and the cause of death was from cerebral hemorrhage as a result of some wicked blows to her head. Other disturbing findings include her body had been washed with gasoline.
Wow.
I'm going to ask you if you can see anything else that would happen to her body.
Other than the fact it was severed.
It's a pretty big one.
Okay. At first I thought she was dusted or shaved. Okay. But I've got some sort of marking, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. She had several cuts to her thigh and both breasts. She had chunks of flesh actually sliced off her body. Her pubic hair was shaved. Her uterus was removed. She had ligature marks on her neck, her wrists, and her ankles, which suggested, of course, torture. Now, very strangely, obviously, this is an incredibly strange and bizarre and disturbing event. As part of that, the body was posed with her arms over her head, her eyes open, her elbows bent, and her legs spread apart. She was expertly cut in half post-mortem, thank God. This was later identified as what's called a hemocorporectomy, a surgical procedure that amputates the lower body by cutting across the lumbar spine. Something not done lightly or without serious skill and training. Now, I don't know if a butcher has that capability or not. What do you think now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely? You still say butcher, not physician?
Yep, I'm not seeing a doctor.
Okay, so how do you get to that?
Because I'm looking to see, there's a telltale sign for a doctor for me, and I'll see any kind of medical profession. I'll see that emblem with the snakes going up.
Oh yeah, caduceus, I think it's called.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. So it's not a doctor.
Okay, I didn't know. That's neat. Okay. And then something else was done to her. Really a horrific indignity and a very bizarre thing to do. Can you get an idea of what that might be?
At this point, I'm going to say no. I can see, like, the neck doesn't surprise me that she had the rope around it, because I felt like she was being choked at. Okay. The shaving of her body didn't surprise me, and the markings don't surprise me. But the other ones, no. I don't know if it's just she doesn't want to look, but no.
Okay. Firstly, there wasn't a rope around her neck.
Not when she was fawn, but there's marks of a rope around her neck.
Okay. Yeah, there are markings on her body. Okay, great. What happened to her was the killer took a knife and from each corner of her mouth ripped her flesh right back to her ear.
That's right.
So it's a grotesque smile we're supposed to anticipate. And in those days, it was thought to be called a term, Glasgow grin, which came from a dreadful technique that Glaswegian gangsters in the 1920s used to put fear of God into anybody who would go against them. They would do this to someone's face. They would rip it from the tip of the mouth right straight back to the ear. Nowadays, we might call it a Joker smile.
Yeah.
Horrendous thing to do to somebody, especially somebody as beautiful and as young as this one. Now, there were very few physical clues found at the scene, Darcy. They included a heel print in the tire tracks running along near her body, as well as a cement sack filled with watery blood. That's pretty well it. There was one sole witness who supposedly saw a black sedan parked nearby early that morning where her body was found. So after hearing all this horrendous stuff done to her body, any other insights into the butcher?
Definitely male. I would say anywhere from 5'10" to 6'2".
Okay.
He had to be able to, at 118 pounds, even at dead, that's a heavy body to be lifting. I keep seeing a wheelbarrow in my head, but somehow I don't think he used that. But I feel like he had to be strong enough to lift that. and he is educated. So maybe part of you is right in the fact that maybe he started out to be a doctor
Okay.
and changed his course of action.
Okay. So when you're using the term butcher, you don't mean someone who actually has a job in a meat packing plant. You're meaning more an individual who might be so degraded that they would butcher another individual.
I'm really tossed here because part of me says yes, the term butcher could apply to a person who knows. How about this? It applies to a person who knows how to butcher an animal.
Okay. Would you then say someone who's been to medical school would be someone who would fall into that category?
Yes, but I stand by he is not a doctor.
All right. Let's turn our attention to who might have done this then. We're really focusing on this now. The immediate suspect possibilities were surgeons and physicians, Darcy, or anybody with medical, no mention of a butcher per se. There were background checks run on students attending the nearby university, which is just a little bit between the Biltmore Hotel and the place where she was found. But nothing came of any of these checks. In the end, about 150 men were interviewed as potential suspects. And the police profiled the suspect and came up with 4 possible types of individuals. Number 1, the killer knew Elizabeth because they say it was a personal vendetta due to the manipulations put onto her body. Number 2, the killer wanted the world to see Elizabeth punished for some wrongdoing. Number 3, the killer was a sadist who just wanted to dominate her. And number 4, the killer was possibly a necrophiliac, someone who's attracted to corpses. Do any of those 4 possibilities align with your ideas?
The sadist.
The sadist. Okay, but you had said the individual might have known her.
I feel like she had to have known him because I don't think she would have gone with him if she had any idea he had that kind of characteristic.
Okay.
I agree. She was very friendly, very outgoing, could talk to you if you stood still long enough. But I feel like there's a connection here somewhere.
Okay. This scene of gross dismemberment reminds me a little of our sick friend, Jack the Ripper, whose horrific murders we investigated in episode 11, which I'll remind our listeners can hear anytime from our Seeing Dead People website on www.radiosidney.ca. And you may recall, Darcy, that you were able to identify the same individual considered by others to be the famous misogynistic Victorian serial killer. When you identified that guy, that really gave me the old STP frisson thrill up my spine. So you're describing a little bit of this fellow. Before we go more into what he might physically look like, I'd like to discuss with you what sort of individual commits this kind of heinous homicide. I can understand rage and lashing out at someone. I can even try to understand a premeditated attack, but I just can't understand the depth of depravity needed to commit these sorts of appalling insults on a young woman. Do you have any intuition about this profoundly sick perpetrator?
I would say we can list him as a psychopath, list him as a person who did not get the kind of attention he wanted from his mother. I would also say that he probably hurt animals growing up.
Right.
That the brutality done to her, for me, says this isn't the person he really wanted to do it to, but this is the person who was available.
Oh, how do you get that?
Because that's just what popped into my head as I'm making a checklist, see?
Yes, I can't read it, I can see it.
Yeah, as I make the checklist, I'm checking off what I'm hearing, and then all of a sudden I heard this was more of a convenience because she was there and maybe she said or did something that invoked his anger. Yes, I agree, but I think that his anger is directed at someone else.
Okay, so he killed her, but in fact, he was killing someone else in his mind?
Yes.
So why does he have to be so brutal?
It's a statement for him. You said the Glasgow gangs used to do the slit up the side because it was a statement of fear. This is, yes, a statement of fear, but it's also a statement of art for him, because think of the way he laid out the body, the arms above, head like a doll.
Yep. Do you call that art?
Some would.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All righty. There weren't very many clues, sadly, and very little evidence discovered against any person in this case, Darcy. However, a series of weird things happened afterwards. Someone claiming to be her killer phoned the editor of the Los Angeles Examiner newspaper on the 21st of January. This person complimented the paper on its coverage of the murder, said he was going to turn himself in, and told the editor to expect some souvenirs of Beth Short in the mail. 9 days later, January 24th, a sharp-eyed U.S. Postal Service employee snagged a suspicious envelope addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and to other Los Angeles newspapers. The address was distinctive, formed using the old cut and pasted words from newspaper method. Inside this envelope were Elizabeth's birth certificate, some business cards, photographs, and names on pieces of paper. Also, an address book with the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover. The package was cleaned with gasoline, leading people to believe it was from the killer because the killer used the same method in the actual murder. There were partial fingerprints lifted from the envelope, but no identification could be made. Same day this package was received, Elizabeth's black suede shoe and handbag were found on top of a garbage can in an alley about 2 miles from where she was found. These were examined and they were also cleaned with gasoline. So the police thought, okay, that makes a link. And again, no real fingerprints. Did the killer leave these personal items as a tease? Were they there all along, like immediately following the event? Or did he bring them there and drop them off after the fact? What do you think?
I would have thought he brought them there and dropped them off after the fact.
And why would someone do that?
You've already said it. It's a tease. It's like, look, you guys have come and gone, so I'm going to show you that I'm smarter than you, because normally psychopaths believe they are smarter than the norm.
So another little tease on his part.
Yeah.
What a bugger. That makes sense to me as well. 2 days after these bizarre discoveries on January 26th, the Examiner received yet another letter. This one was handwritten and signed. It read, "Here it is. Turning in Wednesday, 29th of January, 10 a.m. Had my fun at the police. Black Dahlia Avenger." Also included was the location where the murderer would supposedly turn himself in. The police waited there on the morning of the 29th, but no one appeared. Surprise.
Yeah.
That afternoon at 1 p.m., the Examiner newspaper received yet another cut and pasted letter which read, "Have changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal. The Dahlia killing was justified." A second newspaper, the Los Angeles Herald Express, also received cut and pasted messages from this alleged killer. Some were signed Black Dahlia Avenger, and some came without a signature. Who wrote those notes? Were they from the actual killer, do you think, Darcy?
For someone who wanted attention, I'll be on the fence here. I think it could have been either or. It may have been one to begin with, and then the next one would be the 15-minute fame sort of idea.
I think it's pretty odd that a killer, is going to communicate using cut and pasted unsigned letters, and then communicate with handwritten and signed letters.
Yeah.
So I think that they've got to be two people at least involved in the letter writing.
Yes, I agree.
Do you think one of those two people was the real killer?
The one who hand cut
and pasted?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's interesting because the handwritten ones were signed Black Dahlia Avenger. And that really throws me because to me, if you call yourself Black Dahlia Avenger, I think it means you are avenging the death of the Black Dahlia.
That's what I would think.
Not the other way around. You're not the person who perpetrated the crime.
Exactly.
So it's really quite bizarre that this person but we never know these people who want to have, as you say, their 15 minutes of fame, where they're coming from, where their head is. But it's a very bizarre thing to stick your nose into something and call yourself the Black Dahlia Avenger, but at the same time saying the killing of the Dahlia was justified.
The kid, no, never.
That's what he says, though.
Oh,
This written person.
Oh.
Have changed my mind. You wouldn't give me a square deal. Dahlia killing was justified.
see, and that's why I don't think he's it. Because I'm with you, an avenger would be someone who'd go after revenge.
Yeah, revenge for the killing of Elizabeth Short.
Yeah.
One thing that really struck me as well is I can see someone getting their hands on the address book, because then you'd have to be the killer or someone who knew Elizabeth quite near the end of her life, because she had an address book on her and the photographs, but her birth certificate, who carries around their birth certificate?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
In your regular life, you carry your birth certificate? I'll be darned, then I have to take that back. I didn't think anybody would.
Normally always in my purse.
And what if someone stole your purse? You then have no identity.
Yeah, I would. But you think at the time people did, because it's not as though we had really driver's license with our pictures on them. And a lot of times people never had a driver's license. They just drove.
So you're thinking she would carry it around as a piece of identification.
Yes.
Perhaps she needed it for her casting calls to prove her age, maybe.
Could be that, or to get into a bar.
Good point. Okay, that would be her way of proving her age. Yeah, to get into a bar. Very good point. I just thought it was, to me, mine's in a safety deposit box. Gonna stay there to be safe. I don't carry it around. So it's interesting, you're on the other side.
I may not have it in my purse anymore, but I used to.
You're now digging into your purse to see if it's there.
Yeah, I might have actually put it in a safe place.
Oh my God, don't hold us in suspense now, Darcy. Is it there or isn't it there?
Not by the looks of it. Maybe I did put it away.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's safer somewhere than your purse.
Let's hope it's somewhere else because it's not in my purse.
I hope it's somewhere else that you'll eventually recall, okay? There were many suspects, and as usual in these bizarre circumstances, many people claim to either be the Black Dahlia killer with, of course, no evidence, or that they knew the Black Dahlia killer, and of course, again, with no evidence. Police charged no one. There was no real evidence against anybody, as I mentioned. But we do have some main suspects. And you already, I can tell, you've told us a little bit about this fellow physically. At least maybe the person she was seeing when she went to the Biltmore and walked out towards somebody, that may not be the killer. I don't know. But we'll talk about the three main possible suspects and see if any of them come to you, okay? Any of them strike you as being the person that you think you just described earlier and felt earlier.
Okay.
I can show them to you, Darcy, but I cannot post them on the website because they are all copywritten. So I'm going to call them by alphabet names rather than our numerical names. I'll be identifying them as photographs A, B, and C.
Okay.
Our first suspect is a man called Mark Hansen. And you'll recall this was the name that was on the address book that was found with the note that was delivered with Elizabeth Short's belongings. So have a look at photograph A, Darcy, and tell us what you see so our listeners can get a sense of what Mr. Hansen looks like and what you think of him as a suspect in this vile killing of Elizabeth Short.
That looks like a military uniform because there's wings here. He's handsome. He's got maybe brownish colored hair. Don't think it's blonde. Longer face. Seems really nice.
He doesn't he?
Nice looking. He's not hard on the eyes. He's got a nice smile. Yeah, I don't feel violence or anything. So I'm going to say that as a person, he comes across quite nice, probably overworked and underpaid.
Okay. So he was a wealthy nightclub and theater owner. This photograph, I don't know what the year is, but obviously maybe it was when he had some military service during the war or something.
Okay.
Was an acquaintance of Elizabeth's. She even stayed at his home with friends, and he recognized and confirmed that the shoe and bag found were hers. Her friend and roomie called Anne Toth told police that Elizabeth had recently rejected Hansen's sexual advances. Rumor had it that he spent some time at a Swedish medical school, and hosted popular parties, which some Los Angeles cops even attended. He was eventually cleared, though.
Yeah, I don't see him as being guilty.
Okay, so he doesn't look like your guy.
No.
Okay, let's look at suspect number 2, who's called Robert Red Manley, whom you'll see in photo B. And he is the fellow that she was seeing. What do you think of him as a suspect?
He's intense, a little awkward. Again, not ugly. Where the first guy had the chisel jaw, this guy's more the rounded sort of idea. Or yeah, no.
Okay, it's not the greatest shot. It's a long shot of his body. He's wearing a long coat, and it's not as clear at all as the Hanson photograph.
No.
Okay, Red Manley is not a guy that you're going to say is the guy. He's not one. Okay, he didn't make it. He was, of course, the last person to see her alive that we know of, having dropped her off. But he was actually cleared after taking a polygraph.
Yeah, no, he's not guilty, but he is guilty of some stuff.
Most people seem to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, our last, but certainly not our least suspect is in photo number C, Darcy. He's a man called George Hodel. Can you talk about him?
His hair's too dark. The hair I'm seeing is lighter. Whoever she was with had lighter hair.
Okay.
Definitely knew her. This guy is nice. He's very handsome, dynamic. He wears the suit nicely. He almost has that stare. Okay, so the kind of look where when a cop looks at you, it's like he's looking right through you.
Yes, I don't know how they perfect that. Same with border guards.
Yeah, and so he's got the right kind of stare for me to get the information out of you that you wanted. Yeah, I still don't think it's him though. He doesn't have that vibe that I would associate to a psychopath.
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit more about him because he's quite interesting. He was considered a suspect by the police, but not charged. What's amazing is that his son is a retired Los Angeles police detective, and he claims this man, his father, is guilty of murdering Elizabeth Short. His reasoning is, after his father's death, he was examining some of his father's personal effects, and he came across some photographs of a young woman with curly black hair, and he thought she was strikingly similar to the Black Dahlia. Actually, they were proven those photographs not to be of the Black Dahlia, but it got him going on thinking about his father being the possible murderer. His dad was a surgeon, so we've got the old cutting across the body ability covered. His handwriting appears to be similar to the letters sent to the press from the Black Dahlia Avenger. But as you and I have discussed, the Avenger may not necessarily be the killer. And I don't think the killer would be stupid enough to handwrite his notes.
No.
Also, the son, Steve, found receipts for bags of concrete, which were the same size and brand that was found near the body, one of those few pieces of evidence. The police actually were so suspicious of Hodel that they bugged his office, and they heard him talk about some strange things. And one of them, in one conversation, he said, really, there was nothing I could do. Put a pillow over her head and cover her with a blanket, get a taxi, expired at 12:59. They thought there was something fishy. They may have figured it out, killed her. It's a bit garbly for me, but that's what they have on recordings. Another surveillance heard him say to someone, supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. So does that give you any more thoughts that he might be possibly the killer?
Not even a chance.
Not even a chance. Okay, one other thing, quite a weird, again, a little weird twist. He admired a surrealist painter called Man Ray. Now, Man Ray's was a surreal, really bizarre paintings. And one of his two most famous ones, one was called The Minotaur, and the other was called Les Amoureux. Just a sec, my little dog's barking. Quiet there, Spud. Those two paintings are chillingly similar to the way Elizabeth Short's butchered body was posed. So the theory was, you had mentioned art at one time, that George wanted to create his own immortal piece of surrealist art, and he did so by murdering and posing Elizabeth Short. Now, it seems pretty far-fetched to me, but hey, the murderer butchered her in such a horrendous way that who knows. So let's follow this down just for fun. Have a look at photo number 6. This is Man Ray's painting entitled Minotaur. Tell us what and how you think it relates to the Black Dahlia killing.
Okay, if it's the upper torso, and I think I did that thing where her arms were like this.
Absolutely.
It into the upper torso, because when you look at it, the rib cage is really concaved in. It's like there's no stomach there when you're looking at it. So yeah, I could see how it matches, but I can
Right.
also say he didn't do it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I think it is suggestive. And I, for fun, did some research on the net just to see. This fellow named Harry Harnish posted something which is quite interesting. I'll let you have a look at his webpage in photo number 7. He came across this fashion ad of the same week that the Black Dahlia was killed. And if you look at the two women in posed, they are both strikingly similar to the pose of the body.
Absolutely.
Their arms up near their head or in their face, their legs are splayed. So it was a fashion of the time to show women like this.
Yeah. This is more what I was seeing. And the belt.
Yes.
Divider. The belt would be the divider of the upper to lower torso. You can't see the belt on a naked person. The only way to do it would be to sever them.
So to me, it's more resembling the fashion of or not the fashion, the advertising fashion of the day, rather than him emulating some painter.
Yes.
Okay, I did a quick check of the net after seeing this Larry Harnish's page, and I found within seconds an image of a woman with exactly that, her arms over her head in a similar kind of pose to our gal. So it wasn't unusual, this pose at that time frame, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to look at the next painting, which is Man Ray's painting called Les Amoureux, and it is a painting of a pair of lips. Now, what do you think of that in relationship to our gal and the sad butchery of her face?
It's elongated, but that's the thing I missed. Didn't she have on red lipstick?
Frankly, I don't know. Based on what I saw of the photographs, there was some darkness around that area, and since she had supposedly no blood, I guess it must have been lipstick, but again, the flesh would have been pulled back and everything.
Yeah. So I would definitely say it's very similar.
But again, I did a little look on the net just for fun, and I came across the next photograph, number 10, which was a war guide to women's lip types, believe it or not. 6 types of lips you might have, red lipstick on them. And very quickly, I looked at the upper right, the silent type of the lip.
Yeah.
And it looked very similar to me to this Glasgow smile, a very elongated, supposed smile.
So if you look at it like that, the silent type, maybe they did it so she couldn't talk.
Maybe if that was commonly thought of as a silent type for that kind of style of lipstick or mouth. But certainly, to me, it was an indication that this idea that George Hodel idolized Man Ray and wanted to emulate 2 of his paintings, his style was chosen to do the corpse and then that style, to me, is not sensible, because it was just as easily as a result of what was happening in the fashion of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, great. What do you think then? In the end, we have a summary of no one's been charged officially for this murder. You've described someone to us, and you've not found that person in our 3 suspects.
No, but just out of curiosity, I thought they had more suspects. 6 altogether. I thought they had 6.
They had more suspects, definitely. I didn't track them all down. They were hard to get some photographs of some of them, and I just thought I'll take the 3 that I can get photographs from and see if any of them ring for you.
Okay.
How do you describe our guy in the end?
5'10" to 6'2", about 160, 65 pounds. I'll go 175, so 160 to 175. Lighter, not blonde hair, but I would definitely say dirty blonde or the brownish, the light brown. Brown eyes, not blue, and got a killer smile. No pen there. And he definitely is articulate. He's intelligent. He works. I see paper, but I also feel that I still want to say butcher for some reason. I don't mean that he butchered her body, but I don't think she was his last.
Okay, there's some talk about this not being the sole killing of this individual. Yeah. There was a horrific set of murders that happened in a similar time frame. In Cleveland, they called them the torso murders, where somebody's chopped people in half. They eventually came up with no link. Other young women were killed, but nobody in this horrific manner as similar as this. So there hasn't necessarily been a link to any other murders that are similar to our Black Dahlia killing. You said you thought, though, that this man was known to Elizabeth Short.
Yeah, I do. I feel like she knows him.
And he's the one she's greeting when she's going into the hotel?
No, that's someone totally different.
Okay. Was that Hanson, our guy with the military job?
I'm sure it was him.
Okay, so you're seeing someone that how are you seeing him then? You're not seeing him through her eyes?
No, I see him through the side. Like maybe she saw him, been introduced to him, maybe didn't know him that well, but knew him enough. So, you know how I introduce you to a friend, so you think that friend is perfectly safe.
Absolutely.
So it was like that.
And you say, even though she knew him, he killed her as a substitute for someone else that he wanted to kill.
Yes, but I don't think it started like that. I think there something, let's say a fight, an argument escalated to the point that things got out of hand.
Okay, then let's follow that through. That if things got out of hand, then he's not necessarily killing her in place of someone else?
No, he's killing her in place of someone else because she indicated something that made him feel that it was that person.
Oh, I see. And so when he attacked, he was attacking that other person.
Yes.
Wow. As you can imagine, there have been countless movies and books and podcasts about the Black Dahlia case. No one has the answer. She lies in her grave without justice, which I think is really sad. And I continue to be so profoundly sickened by the depravity of some of individuals, the actions that they can feel they have a right to inflict on others. I don't understand where their head is. I guess it isn't where I can possibly put my head. It's one thing to, murder somebody, lash out at somebody, and then perhaps, even if you're a cold-blooded killer and have no moral sense, to take the next step of desecrating the body, and then the next step of taking that desecrated body and dumping it somewhere, and then the next step of posing that body so that when it's found, not only will the individual be found in a degraded way, but you're trying to show off something as a result of that. The number of actions following the murder, it just astounds me.
I know. It's okay, so you killed them. Stop there.
Yeah. Thanks, Darcy. That was very interesting as always. And you gave me the old STP thrill with your knowing right up front there was a D involved, and then saying it had to do with a flower. That was astounding, because to come across the Black Dahlia and not have any idea that we're talking about this case and Elizabeth Short, to come up with those two terms was pretty remarkable.
I have to say that it surprised me, because when you said Beth, I thought, no, that doesn't sound right.
I know. You kept saying it's the D, and I was holding back thinking, I'm not going to give you anything there. I'm not going to reveal anything. And I thought, that's okay. It's just one letter of the alphabet. You could have come up with that. But when you said the flower, I was beaten. That was it.
Yeah, the flower was a big thing.
The flower was a big thing. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process, or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month and will also be available as a downloadable podcast on soundcloud.com for your convenience. Seeing Dead People airs online at RadioSidney.ca every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast with Goosebumps Guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.